Good evening. I'd like to call this Tuesday, August 6th, 2019 meeting of Middletown City Council to order. Please stand and join me in a moment of meditation and the pledge to the flag. And I ask everyone to remember the victims we lost over the weekend in Dayton and El Paso. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bohannon.
Here.
Mr. Moon.
Here.
Mr. Mulligan.
Here.
Mayor Mulligan.
Here.
Ms. Vittori. Here.
All right, first item this evening is a public hearing regarding the historic designation of Carnegie Library site at 1320 First Avenue. Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. This is a public hearing for City Council's consideration and public hearing, again, for the Carnegie Library. A public hearing was held on June 20th, 2019, in accordance with Chapter 1212 of the Historic Preservation Code of the Middletown Development Code. The Historic Commission did vote in favor and recommends to Council approval of the designation. They based their recommendation on the review criteria for historic designation outlined in the Middletown Development Code, which includes the structure or site's character, value, or significance as part of the development of the city, the state, or the United States, its location as a site or area of significant historic event, its identification with a person who has significantly contributed to the development of a city, its embodiment or distinguishing characteristics of an architectural style or type, its exemplification of the cultural, economic, social, political heritage of the city, its relationship to distinctive areas or structures designated for preservation, its unique location or singular physical characteristic representing an established and familiar feature of the city, and its inclusion of prehistoric or historic archaeological sites or other important representations of previous cultures. Based on those criteria, they did pass that, and they are recommending that City Council adopt it. You will have a first reading on this in your agenda later tonight.
Okay. Very good. Any questions for Mr. Atkins from council? All right, hearing none, I'll open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone to speak in favor of the proposed designation. Is there anyone to speak in favor of? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the proposed historic designation? Anyone to speak in opposition to? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. We'll move on with the rest of our agenda. Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. For City Manager reports, just a quick one tonight. I know it's National Night Out, and I'll try to get you out as quickly as I can over to Smith Park. Did want to announce that the Housing Committee has been working over a year putting together a new housing policy for Council's consideration. A couple of you have been pretty involved in that process. We finished that in May of this year. We've had a couple of public meetings on that where we've been out showing what's been going on. It's now at a place where it's ready for Council to hear the entire presentation and then look at adopting that as part of the new master plan. We will have that presentation on August 20th. I will try to have a couple members of the Housing Committee available to answer any questions that you have, but we'll have the final presentation, and then probably in September we'll bring it to you for adoption into the master plan. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
All right, very good. Now with that, we come to citizens' comments. We've got a couple cards this evening. I'd like to invite Robbie Childers to the podium. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
If we get your name and address for the record, please.
Robbie Childers, 123 Jody Drive. If you will pass them down, please.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you all for having me.
Thank you.
Well, again, thank you, folks. I'm Pastor Robbie Childers, and I'm with Christians United for Israel. And so that is an organization, started in 2006. We are 7 million members strong. And a quick backdrop, I understand time is precious, especially with the night out. But the last 3 years, I've went to Washington, went to Capitol Hill. We speak on legislation for the benefit of the state of Israel. But the more I find out, especially after the vice president shows up this year, and then he was there 2 years ago, the ambassador for the UN, David Freeman, Mike Pompeo, he was there. It shows the significance of the importance between the United States and Israel and the benefit to all of us. And with that, the Taylor Force Act, I got to speak to Congressman Portman, Senator Portman on it. where the U.S. was taking our tax dollars, and rightly so, doing the right things in the Middle East, but they was giving Palestine $300 million. Palestinians has a pay-to-slave program. And so when our young Marine, Taylor Force, retired out of service, goes back to Israel for some education, he is attacked, stabbed, and that family, under Palestinian law, gets a pension for the rest of their life because they consider their man a hero, which actually we all, I would think that would agree that's not much of a hero. So we got to speak on that, other legislation, and that bill was passed to where we no longer fund them with that $300 million, and that saves us taxpayers a lot of money. And there's been others, but we'll have to save those for over to Park or something. I'll run you down. So why am I here tonight? One, in your packet, in the booklet that I've given you, some gifts there, there's an invitation for September 1st at the Victoria Theater in Dayton. Doors open at 4. I believe the event starts at 6:30. Sandy Hagee Parker will be our keynote speaker. His third or fourth year we've had this. They're held all across the country. But it is our night to honor Israel. There will be, we're trying to get some other congressmen members there. Warren Davison said he was busy. I was like, bummer, you know. We was just at his office hanging out with his staff. But also, and I'm just going to take it that you understand a lot of this, the significance of supporting Israel in the Jewish community. And this city has one, a synagogue in its midst. And with that, I would like to ask on behalf of Christians United for Israel, we call ourselves CUFI, that this city would consider adopting a resolution that you would resist any forms of anti-Semitism in our city, in our borders. And the great thing about that is, in 2016, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance came up with a definition, because as Sandy said, you can't beat it, you can't defend it if you don't know what it is. So I'm going to save time of reading it. It is in your notes, in your packet that I've given you all this information. And with that, if you come to a decision tonight or at your next meeting, then you would be a very honored guest on September 1st at the Night to Honor Israel. And I'll get you some backstage passes for the after party, and we'll go back here and hang out. And Amy wasn't lying about the lights. So thank you for your time.
Appreciate you coming down.
And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
All right, appreciate that.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, next card I have this evening is from Mr. Joe Whitman. Good evening. If we get your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Joe Whitman, 1504 North Braille Boulevard.
Welcome.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity here. It's just very short. Recently, representative from the 53rd District made an abhorrent statement regarding the recent tragic shootings in Dayton. She basically blamed the tragedy as being the fault of the breakdown of the traditional American family. She equated transgender people, homosexual marriage, and drag queen advocates, in part, as the causation of these horrific events. Her bigotry and small-mindedness are not representative of Middletown values. Many of our small businesses are owned by members of the LGBTQ community and are a dynamic and integral part of the Middletown community. They are our brothers and sisters. They run businesses, pay taxes, raise families, attend our churches, and are some of the finest people I know. The LGBTQ community also includes some of the children of our community. They all deserve our unwavering support. I believe the community as a whole should denounce Ms. Keller's statements, as she does not speak for Middletown. She certainly doesn't speak for me. It's come to my attention recently that city policy includes ensuring that no discrimination will take place in hiring on the basis of race, religion, sex, disability, color, national origin, or ancestry. I ask council tonight to resolve to also include members of our LGBTQ community and our non-discrimination language in all agreements. Middletown should look after our own neighbors and let them know all are welcome here. Thank you, that's it.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming down this evening. All right, that's all I have for comments. Move on to our consent agenda. Ms. Skank?
For your consideration this evening, we have the approval of the city council minutes of July the 2nd and July 16th, 2019, to receive and file an oath of office for Elena Garris, to receive and file Board of Health minutes from June 11th, 2019, to authorize the purchase of mounted equipment for an international truck chassis purchased in June 2018 for the Division of Streets from J.W. Devers and Son Incorporated of Trotwood, Ohio, in the amount of $55,380, and to recognize a proclamation for National Night Out.
Okay, do we have a motion for the approval of the issues and actions listed on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzpatrick? Yes.
All right, we have two motion items this evening.
To authorize the city manager to enter into a contract for services with UMR to administer health care plan for employees.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. The city's been using a healthcare plan for employees administered by UMR since January 1st of this year. For the second year in a row, they've waited until July to give us the agreement for the program they've been monitoring since January. So it is ready for your approval this evening. The fees and everything was all included in the budget, and there's no monetary cost beyond what's already been budgeted
Okay.
being paid.
Very good. Any questions or comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to authorize city manager to enter into a contract for services with UMR to administer the health care plan for the city employees.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzpatrick? Yes. Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
And to authorize the Middletown Division of Police to enter into an interlocal agreement with Butler County and the Hamilton Police Department to receive a grant from the U.S. Department of Justice JAG program.
All right, Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor, the Justice Assistance Grant, or the JAG grant, is awarded annually to cities and counties based on their crime rates and the amount of money available. In the past, we've been able to apply for this directly, and we've gotten a lot of benefit out of it over the years. They have changed the formula on how they do it this year, and it's going to be, the county is going to be the lead entity. We will be a partner with them along with Hamilton and receive the grants, but we will have to execute through the county to make it work this year. As is often the case in these grants, the window is very short. They announced they changed it, and we have to have it back in before the next council meeting would come together. So we are going to need a motion to get that through today so that we can meet the deadline to get the money.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Atkins? All right, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the Middletown Division of Police to enter into an interlocal agreement with Butler County and the Hamilton Police Department to receive a grant from the U.S. Department of Justice JAG program.
So moved. Second?
Okay, Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzpatrick? Yes. Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
All right, that brings us to council comments. Start with Mr. Mulligan this evening.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no comments.
All right, Mr. Bohannon.
Well, thank you, Mayor. One thing, I'd like to pass on my condolences to one of the city employees, Jennifer Eakey, her mother's passing this past week, and our thoughts and prayers are with her.
Thank you. Ms. Vittori?
I would like to thank everyone who was involved with Italian Fest this weekend. We had a lot of fun downtown, and I think it went over really well, and we'll probably spin it off into its own event next year. We had the police and fire down there leading the sides for the community water balloon fight, which was awesome. There was a spaghetti eating contest at Spoken that one of my sons won. Congratulations, Logan. And there were just tons of people downtown enjoying themselves. So again, I think next year we will put even more energy to it, spin it off as its own event. It couldn't have happened without DMI, who is our tireless team of volunteers. Kara Goheen, always at the top of the list, and then Jeff Payne, the executive director. So that was a wonderful event, and I thank everyone. I want to also thank Mr. Whitman for your comments, and I echo your thoughts very much. I would like to join other local leaders who have condemned Ms. Keller's comments and also asked for her resignation. I do not believe that she represents the people of Middletown, and she seems to honestly revile a lot of her own constituents. So in collaboration with you and others, I agree that we need to find better representation for our people, and I do not believe those comments should represent anything to do with the city of Middletown. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vittori. Vice Mayor Moon?
Thank you. First thing I wanted to mention was, I believe the mayor and I had the opportunity to attend the Multicultural Festival last weekend. Great event, and I want to congratulate Kelvin Moss on being recognized there. I do want to mention that I am just sincerely heartbroken about the shootings in Dayton and El Paso. I've been praying for these families since the tragedy occurred. I firmly believe every human life is invaluable. There's so many more things that bring us together in this world, commonalities that we share than what divide us, and we have to come together in these difficult times. A quote came to mind after this shooting happened, and it may seem silly, but it's from Mother Teresa, and she said, "What can you do to promote world peace? Go home and love your family." It seems small, but it's a place to start. That's all I have.
Thank you. I too would like to reiterate those comments. Very tragic situation up in Dayton. The Ohio Mayor's Alliance, which I'm a member of the board of, we issued a letter today to Mayor Whaley. I'd like to read it into the record here. As friends and fellow mayors, we write you in this hour of tragedy with the deepest of sympathies for the Dayton community. We know words alone will not ease the pain of this horrific event, but we hope to provide some comfort through this expression of solidarity. Just a few short months ago, Dayton came together after it had been rocked by a series of devastating tornadoes. In the face of another heart-wrenching tragedy, we know Dayton's unconquerable spirit, with your leadership, will shine through yet again. We'd like to recognize the inspiring courage of your law enforcement officials, whose quick action undoubtedly prevented the loss of even more innocent lives. We would like to recognize your leadership throughout these trying times. You've been a rock and a steadfast leader for your community and the entire Dayton region. You have represented the Ohio mayors well, and we are so proud to call you our friend and colleague. As your fellow board members, and on behalf of our bipartisan coalition of mayors, we pledge to do whatever we can to support you and the Dayton community in this time of grief and the search for answers to this senseless tragedy. Over the years, many of our communities have been impacted by gun violence, and we refuse to accept that there are no reasonable policy solutions at the state and federal level to help prevent the next mass shooting. Signed by the board members, fellow mayors John Cranley of Cincinnati, Tim DeGeeter of Parma, Anthony Ginther of Columbus, Don Patterson of Kettering, David Schaefer of Lancaster, and myself. So we want to express our best wishes to Dayton. It's certainly a tragedy they've been facing up there, and want to pass along those condolences. So. And with that, we can move to our legislation this evening.
Thank you, sir. 7 matters for consideration this evening. We have nothing requiring action tonight, though. The first matter is ordinance O 2019-43, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with Phoenix Stabilization LLC to perform subgrade stabilization on Bonita Drive and declaring an emergency. However, no action requested until August 20th.
Okay, Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor, this contract is for work required to prepare Bonita Drive between Johns Road and Kenway Place to be paved by our city crews. Phoenix Stabilization provided the lowest and best price. We are recommending authorization of an award to them based on their unit price contained in the attached proposal in your packet, not to exceed $80,000, and that will allow us to get that street done here shortly. We'll ask you for a second reading emergency so that we can get that project on its way.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Atkins? Yeah, thank you.
Second matter is Resolution R 2019-21, a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Middletown, counties of Butler and Warren, state of Ohio, for the period ending December 31st, 2019, and declaring an emergency. This involves the general, stormwater, water, and sewer funds. No action requested until August 20th.
Okay, Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. Back in 2018, the city of Middletown took out a loan from Middletown Moving Forward with the idea of opening up Hook Road on the west side of the airport. As we've been working on the master plan and other projects and the education hangar, it's clear to us that while that project's going to be needed at some point, it's not going to be needed in the very near future. We are paying interest on that loan. There's no reason to continue to keep that money, so we are recommending to repay the loan at this time. That would also give Middletown Moving Forward some of their money back for if other projects come available. So that will be at your action at the next meeting.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Atkins? All right, thank you.
Next matter is Resolution R 2019-22, a resolution honorarily designating a portion of Reinhardt's Boulevard between Charles Street and Clark Street as private Patrick L. Kessler Memorial Way for a period of 2 years, first reading this evening.
Okay, Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor, back on April 16th of this year, council adopted ordinance number 2019-19, which establishes a new policy for honorary designations of public right-of-way and public facilities. Part of that requires the Planning Commission hold a public meeting and review any applications, which they did on July 10th, 2019 for this application. They have a recommended approval of the signed dedication in their case number 1-19 for a period of 2 years as spelled out in the new policy. This would designate Reinhardt's Boulevard between Charles Street and Clark Street as private Patrick L. Kessler Memorial Way for a 2-year period commencing on the effective date of the resolution, and Public Works would work on getting the signage out in the median at each end of the designated area. The official name of Reinhardt's Boulevard remains unchanged during this designation.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Atkins?
Mr. Atkins, we had talked about waiving the application fee since there.
We did waive the fee on that one.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, and would you speak, I know we received an email regarding the 2-year time limit versus, I think they requested a permanent designation. It'd still be our ability to make this permanent if council decided to, that's still within the,
It is your policy,
law.
and the answer is yes. We could bring back a second reading with the change, or, again, like at the end of 2 years, we could address it at that time, but the answer to your question is yes.
okay, very good. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you.
Next matter is Resolution R 2019-23, a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Middletown, counties of Butler and Warren, state of Ohio, for the period ending December 31st, 2019, as well as the general and airport funds. Also here for a first reading.
Okay, Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor, this is supplemental appropriation for remediation of unforeseen maintenance issues, some additional expenditures on maintenance equipment, and expenses related to the transition of operations and support and development at the airport. You were given a listing of, I believe it's 9 items totaling, I believe, $178,500, and that will be up for your consideration at the next meeting.
Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Number 5 is ordinance O 2019-44, an ordinance designating the former Carnegie Library located at 1320 First Avenue as a historic landmark site and recommending the site to the National Register of Historic Places of the U.S. Department of the Interior. Also a first reading.
Okay, so our public hearing this evening, anything else to add, Mr. Atkins?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, very good. And our next item then?
Number 6 is ordinance O 2019-45, an ordinance authorizing a development agreement with NVR Incorporated, doing business as Ryan Homes, to waive the water and sewer tap-in fees. First reading.
Okay, Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor, this is for the Sawyer's Mill development. We've been working on this for, 2.5 years or so. We're finally getting ready. My understanding is they're going to be putting in plans for model homes in the next 30 days and start to get that place going. They've been moving dirt all spring. City and Ryan have tentatively agreed that the homes being built will have brick and stone materials on the front elevations consistent with our new development code to make the additional front elevations viable financially to both Ryan and to the end homeowner. The city agreed earlier to waive about $2,500 of tap-in fees, water tap-in fees, and $2,500 of sewer tap-in fees for a total of $5,000 per new home. The remainder fees will be collected as normal. This is, again, the end of a fairly long process of negotiations and federal consent decrees and trips down to Ryan to go through homes and everything else, but I think we're finally ready to get moving.
Any questions or comments from council?
Last matter is ordinance O 2019-46, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to consent to the city of Middletown participating in the Ohio Department of Transportation Bridge Inspection Program for a first reading.
Okay, Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor, back in 2016, we did this as well. ODOT has offered to extend the bridge inspection program in the city for our bridges statewide to help achieve full compliance with the Federal Highway Administration metrics. They do need our approval to opt into the program. There's no cost to the city. We just need to say yes.
Yeah, very good. Any questions or comments from council? Okay, thank you. And the last item we have is an executive session, so I need a motion on the authority of Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G1 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official.
So moved.
Second. Okay, Ms. Skank, would you call the roll?
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes. All right, following our executive session, we'll be in recess to our next meeting, August 20th, in these chambers at 5:30. Thank you all. Have a good evening.